Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I can't let you hurt anyone else. Sheila exposes Luna right at the party and calls the police. Will is the target of Luna's drug scheme in a startling turn. The plans of Luna Nozawa at Will's party. August 18th, Monday. Luna attends Will's promotion celebration. She is disguised, but not in a very good way. It's just sunglasses and a wig. How does she manage to escape punishment? At this party, Luna will play Will versus Electra Forrester, Linnea Grace. She has on a bartending outfit. Deacon Sharp, Sean Cannon, is allowing her to work the party because she has somehow slipped under the radar. Come on, he might be too busy. His two closest buddies were murdered by that individual. You would expect that he would be fully aware of her appearance. You know what? Zend Forrester Dominguez, Delon de Metz, also appears on Monday. Bold and the Beautiful has welcomed Delon de Metz back. He appears at Will's shindig out of the blue. Sheila Carter and Lee Finnegan sound the alarm about Luna. In utter fear, Lee Finnegan, Naomi Matsuda, phones Sheila Carter, Kimberlyn Brown, to inform her that Luna has gotten out. Well, where could Luna have gone? Sheila says. Sheila, really? You informed Luna that Il Giardino was hosting a party for Will. What do you suppose her location is? Particularly because Luna is familiar with the restaurant's layout. She has been slipping in to meet with Sheila behind Deacon's back, so she knows how to move covertly. Sheila informed Luna about the party in a ridiculous manner. It's simply poor writing. In any case, Deacon invites Will and Electra to his party and informs them that everything that occurs at Il Giardino remains there. You can know something is about to happen at Il Giardino just by looking at it. Zend is having a conversation with Will and Electra. He gives Will his congrats on getting promoted. B&B, the twisted plan of Luna Nozawa emerges. That brings us to August 19th, a Tuesday. Luna is incredibly churlishly content. She is observing the progress of her plan. According to teasers, she may have drugged one or two guests at this party later in the week. As you recall, while she was recovering, her grandmother, or Aunt Lee, was taking a lot of medication. Sheila witnessed one of the medicine bottles fall, if you recall. Because she believed Lee was using drugs as a way to cope with her grief, she followed Lee. However, doing drugs isn't the same as anti-inflammatory or blood thinner. Some kind of opioid, narcotic, or similar substance is involved. A dangerous drug of some sort. Luna was holding a mask as well. A few of the partygoers are wearing masks. She knows Electra has been holding out and not sleeping with Will. Luna might therefore arrange for Electra to unintentionally betray Will, or perhaps the other way around. Luna might actually give them both drugs, in my opinion, just to make sure that the worst happens. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Will Spencer is in trouble as Deacon Sharp steps in. On August 20th, a Wednesday, Deacon steps in to help Will. I therefore question whether Deacon needs to stop Will from drinking. Deacon may believe that Will was hitting the bar too frequently. However, it's possible that insane Luna used a medicine she discovered in Lee's medical kit to roofie Will. The absurd thing is that I believe Lee was simply leaving the drugs there, so Luna most likely had easy access to them. Will and Electra have no idea what is going on at the party, and Luna is prepared to carry out her malevolent scheme. She has been attempting to hook up with Will for some time, you know. It is entirely possible if he is under the influence of drugs and Luna is wearing a mask. Meanwhile, if Luna drugged them both, Electra might also be acting strangely. You get twice as much trouble when you drug them both, after all. Il Giardino aftermath, Will and Electra reeling. Thursday, August 21st. Will looks for the cause of the incident. This implies that when he awakens the following day, he has no notion what actually transpired during the party. Or perhaps he awakens in a corner. I think he was drugged because of this. However, unless he expressly recalls that he only had one drink, Will might simply believe that he consumed too much alcohol. I wonder if Electra will also wake up feeling strange. We're talking about Luna, who has actually killed 2 people and attempted to kill multiple others. What she will do is impossible to predict. I believe she is capable of anything. She will go to any lengths to achieve her goals. Luna Nozawa sneaking out of hiding has angered Sheila and Lee. She's being chewed out by them. It sounds like unless they catch Luna there, Grandma Sheila and Lee might not have realized at first that she was in Il Giardino. However, I believe Sheila and Lee will immediately discover where Luna went and that she had a hand in whatever disaster is going to arise after they learn that something shady happened at Will's party. And it appears to be serious problems. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Will Spencer and Electra's nightmare. As of Friday, August 22nd, Will is still incredibly perplexed by what transpired at the party the previous evening. I wonder whether Electra will be angry with him. I mean, it's troublesome if Will Spencer asks her to kiss him because he believes they were intimate. At a party, I doubt Electra would have given him her V card. Electra would want to know what Will is talking about if he is acting as like it was already agreed upon. All of this is a serious warning sign. Ridge Forrester interferes in Hope Logan's response to Carter Walton's proposal. Additionally, Ridge Forrester, Torsten K., stops Carter Walton, Lawrence St. Victor, as he is proposing to Hope Logan, Annika Noel. I wonder whether Carter is attempting to persuade Hope to select an early wedding or to elope. Now that Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, is not dead or dying, Carter wants to move on, but Hope might be a little hesitant. Carter is telling Ridge this week at the Forrester Creations office how much he truly wants to wed Hope. Liam is attempting to determine his desires on the same day. Don Diamond's character Bill Spencer is there to support and counsel him, possibly on his personal life as well as his career. Liam informs Hope this week that she has a ton of other options besides spending time with him. Hope informs him that she would rather be with him than her fiancé Carter since she can't imagine being anywhere else. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Remy Price joins B&B storylines and Luna Nozawa's plan gets more complex. Electra seems to be equally perplexed during the week of August 25th to 29th. Luna's strategy is succeeding admirably. I want to know if Luna will hook up with Will and then disappear like a twisted version of Cinderella. However, Luna's scheme would be even more evil if she managed to enlist Remy Price, Christian Weissman, and he managed to obtain Electra. How horrifying would it be for Will and Electra to know that both of their nightmare stalkers attended that party? The return of Thomas Forrester, B&B family drama sparks. The return of Thomas Forrester, played by Matthew Atkinson, is rapidly approaching. I wonder if he will simply stop by or make an announcement about his arrival. It's possible that Thomas may return and read his father the riot act after Ridge dumps Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig. Ridge's attempt to play the victim will leave Taylor speechless and appalled. Catherine Kelly Lang's character Brooke Logan won't tolerate his weakness for long. As he agreed, he must break Taylor's heart and return to Brooke. Taylor's wounds may be salted by Donna Logan, Jennifer Garais, and Katie Logan, Heather Tom, and Eric Forrester. John McCook may offer an apology, but I believe it will be inauthentic. Lee and Sheila are afraid of Luna's next step after Bill Spencer makes a huge offer. As soon as word gets out, Ridge should hear about this from Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes Wood. Bill will present Liam with an offer. Lee understands that controlling Luna will be extremely difficult. Sheila understands how horrible this may get, so she's afraid of the worst. Additionally, I wonder if Lee has finally come to terms with Luna's complete irredeemability. Will is drunk by bartender Luna, who claims it's his lucky night. Playing the role of bartender, Luna Nozawa will make Will Spencer inebriated. Luna will also whisper to herself that this is Will's fortunate night, so she will start a startling scheme. The program will be rescheduled since B&B was preempted for news coverage on Monday, August 18th. We have all the most recent information for you, but it is currently scheduled to air on Tuesday, August 19th. She will hope that she can rely on Luna to be left alone for the evening at Lee Finnegan's apartment. Luna will pretend that she is simply going to watch a movie, but after Lee leaves, she will look around for a disguise and slip out. Luna will soon pretend to be an Il Giardino employee by donning a wig, glasses, and a costume. In the near future, Luna will be serving as the bartender during Will's promotion party, which will feature dancing and masks that Zen Forrester Dominguez encourages everyone to wear. Luna will be cautioned by another waitress to discard some 180 proof alcohol that has no taste or odor. This waiter believes that it ought to be prohibited in order to prevent anyone from confusing it for vodka. Naturally, when Will wants vodka drinks, Luna will use just that ingredient. As soon as Luna starts making Will intoxicated, he will relax and express his desire for Elector Forrester. As for Luna, she'll smile nearby and say to herself about it being Will's fortunate night. Keep checking back for updates on Luna's next move, as it's evident that she's laying the groundwork for further drama. Lee will discover that Luna is gone when he gets home in the interim. Lee will go into a frenzy and call Sheila sharp in a hurry to inform her that Luna has left. Sheila's voice, stripped of all its usual society page pleasantries and sharpened to a blade's point of absolute conviction, cut through the ambient noise of clinking champagne flutes with 7 words that landed not as an accusation but as a verdict: I can't let you hurt anyone else. In that suspended moment, the entire world of the party seemed to tilt on its axis. The abstract expressionist painting on the far wall bled into a meaningless smear of color, the string quartet's unfinished note hung decaying in the air, and every gaze, previously glazed with the soft focus of expensive liquor and curated gossip, snapped into razor-sharp focus on the 2 women at the room's center: Sheila, her posture rigid with a terrible, righteous anguish, her hand trembling not with fear, but with the immense gravitational pull of the truth she was finally unleashing, and Luna, the evening's radiant axis, the woman whose laughter had moments before been the party's soundtrack, now frozen in a perfect, porcelain mask of affronted innocence, a mask that was already beginning to show its first, almost imperceptible hairline fractures under the unbearable pressure of Sheila's stare. It was a confrontation years in the making, a dam finally bursting under the weight of whispered suspicions, of carefully archived bank statements, of a best friend's hollowed-out grief that Sheila had been forced to witness, of the slow, chilling realization that the woman she'd known since college, the woman who had been her confidant, her ally in 100 petty social wars, was in fact a beautiful, meticulously crafted void, a psychological vampire who fed on the trust and vulnerability of others, leaving a trail of emotional and financial ruin disguised as misfortune in her wake. Luna's art was not in grand, theatrical crimes but in the intimate, quiet ones, the expertly placed doubt that unraveled a marriage, the well-meaning financial advice that bled a inheritance dry, the subtle, gaslit alienation that left a friend utterly alone and dependent solely on her, and she operated from within a fortress of impeccable charm and plausible deniability, her victims often too embarrassed or too broken to ever compare notes, their isolated tragedies never coalescing into a pattern anyone but Sheila, with her dogged, heartbroken loyalty to the last and most brutalized victim, could see. But Sheila had seen it all, had pieced it together from the shattered fragments of her friend Caroline's life, from the bleak, clinical language of the hospital report that followed Caroline's overdose, a report that mentioned a significant financial stressor and a rupture of her primary support system, coded, bloodless terms for Luna's masterwork of destruction. And so Sheila had planned this moment not as an act of revenge, but as a triage procedure, a desperate surgical strike to isolate a pathogen. She had lured Luna here, to this peak of social visibility, surrounded by the very currency Luna valued most, influence and admiration, and she now systematically, methodically, and without a single raised voice, began to dismantle the myth of Luna, laying out a chronology of ruin with the precision of a prosecutor presenting a closing argument. She didn't shout, she enunciated, her words clear and cold, each one a stone placed on the cairn of Luna's facade, the investment opportunity presented to Caroline that coincided exactly with the liquidation of Luna's own debts, the whispered campaign to turn their friend group against a suddenly needy and toxic Caroline, the forged signature on a loan document Sheila had spent 6 months and a small fortune to unearth, the pattern that stretched back before Caroline to others who were in this very room, their faces now shifting from confusion to dawning, horrified recognition as their own past misfortunes were reframed not as bad luck but as predation. Luna's mask of wounded dignity began to properly crack, her eyes, once warm and sparkling, now glinting with a feral, cornered panic, her mouth opening and closing on protests that died in her throat, rendered useless by the sheer, undeniable weight of Sheila's evidence, presented not with malice but with a devastating, funereal sorrow. "You took everything from her," Sheila said, her voice finally breaking on the word her, a single fissure in her controlled demeanor that revealed the ocean of grief beneath. "And you were going to do it again. You were already circling Sarah, weren't you? Complimenting her new venture, asking about her investors. I saw the look you gave her. The same look you gave Caroline." It was this, the proof of imminent future harm, that justified the public spectacle, that transformed Sheila from a potential avenger into a protector, and as she finished speaking, pulling her phone from her clutch with a hand that was now steady, the act of calling the police was rendered not as a dramatic flourish but as the only logical, ethical conclusion to a truth that could no longer be contained within polite whispers. The arrival of the officers, their dark uniforms a stark, utilitarian intrusion into the pastel and gold world of the party, made the abstraction of Sheila's words terrifyingly concrete. The reading of rights was not television dialogue but a cold, legal ritual that finally shackled the illusion of Luna to the reality of consequence. As they led her away, Luna's composure shattered completely, not in tears, but in a venomous, silent glare she fixed upon Sheila, a look that promised a universe of spite, a final, failed attempt to project power where none remained. And in the aftermath, as the stunned guests stood amidst the half-eaten canapés and abandoned drinks, the party now a crime scene in spirit if not yet in fact, the sound of the departing elevator doors closing was like a period at the end of a long, horrific sentence. Sheila stood alone in the center of the room, the object of pity, awe, fear, and suspicion, the messenger who had destroyed the comfortable fiction of their world by introducing the inconvenient truth of justice, knowing that some would never forgive her for the disruption, for the uncomfortable mirror she had held up to their own willful blindness. She had not stopped a monster in a dark alley, she had unmasked one in a ballroom, proving that the most dangerous predators don't lurk in shadows but walk among us in the light, armed with a smile and an intimate knowledge of where we are most vulnerable, and that the bravest, most necessary act is sometimes not a physical fight, but the simple, terrifying act of turning on all the lights and saying, calmly and clearly and for everyone to hear, "I see you. And I can't let you hurt anyone else." Luna's ritual of putting it on each night was not a preparation for deception, but for a truth so profound and vulnerable it could only be breathed in the hushed, forgiving dark of their shared bedroom. The object itself was a work of art, a delicate filigree of a silver-threaded polymer, molded to the precise topography of her face from the bridge of her nose to the swell of her cheekbones, leaving only her eyes and mouth exposed, portals through which the essence of her, the uncostumed soul, could still be glimpsed. Its interior was lined with the faintest memory of lavender and a cooling gel that activated with the warmth of her skin, a sensation she had come to associate not with concealment but with a profound settling, like a diver finding their perfect buoyancy or a bird stilling its wings upon a familiar branch. Will understood this, which is why he never offered to help, never asked if she needed assistance with the slender, almost invisible strap she fastened at the back of her head. He simply watched, his gaze a soft, accepting blanket in the lamplight, as she performed this final, crucial sacrament of her day. He knew that in the act of securing the mask, she was not locking the world out, but locking herself in, gathering the scattered fragments of the persona she had to project to navigate the demanding, cacophonous daylight hours, and integrating them back into the core, private, truer self that only he was permitted to know. It was the shedding of a different, more exhausting mask, the polite smile, the patient listening, the performative strength, and the conscious assumption of the one that represented her authentic fragility. Then, and only then, would she cross the few feet of worn Persian rug to their bed, a journey that felt like traversing a threshold from one realm to another. The bed was their country, their sovereign state with its own laws of gravity and time, its borders marked by rumpled duvets and a leaning tower of books on the nightstand. Will would already be there, propped on an elbow, the book he'd been pretending to read abandoned beside him, his entire attention now focused on her approach. He would lift the covers in a silent, gallant invitation, and she would slide in, the coolness of the sheets a shock quickly mitigated by the radiating warmth of his body. The first point of contact was always her masked cheek against his bare chest, as he wrapped an arm around her, his chin finding its accustomed resting place atop her head. Here, in this nest of breath and heartbeat, the mask performed its ultimate function. Pressed against his skin, it became a translator. The polymer, sensitive to the minute fluctuations of her facial muscles beneath it, would transmit the subtlest of her expressions to him not as sight, but as tactile sensation. He could feel her smile, a slight tightening and warmth against his pectoral muscle. He could sense the faint tremor of a suppressed laugh, the gentle sigh of contented exhaustion, the heartbreaking, almost imperceptible twitch of a brow furrowed by a residual worry she would never give voice to. He learned the topography of her emotional state through the pressure and temperature of the mask against him, a language more intimate and honest than words could ever be. They would lie like that for long, wordless stretches, the only sounds the syncopated rhythm of their breathing slowly falling into harmony, the distant hum of the city a lullaby beyond the window, and the soft, almost inaudible whisper of his fingers tracing the non-masked parts of her, the shell of her ear, the slope of her neck, the familiar landscape of her shoulder. In this space, the mask was not a division but a point of fusion, it was the lens through which their intimacy was focused and magnified. He once told her that kissing her with the mask on was more intimate than without, because it was a kiss meant solely for her mouth, for the words it formed and the breath it gave, unadorned and uncomplicated by the rest of her face. It was a kiss of pure function and pure feeling. The mask created a universe of sensation that was entirely their own, a private dialect of touch. It forced a hyper-awareness, a concentration on the other senses that made every sigh a sonnet, every shift of weight a declaration. Her vulnerability in wearing it, this admission that she needed this prosthesis for true connection, invited a reciprocal vulnerability from him. He had to be still enough, patient enough, and attentive enough to read the silent poetry it transmitted. Their bed became a laboratory for a deeper kind of perception, where they learned to see each other not with their eyes, but with their souls. And later, in the deepest trough of the night, when the boundaries of self grew porous and dreams lapped at the shores of consciousness, the mask would sometimes come off. It was never a conscious decision, but a surrender to a trust so absolute it bypassed thought. In the liminal space between sleeping and waking, she would sometimes feel his careful, sleep-clumsy fingers at the back of her head, unfastening the clasp with a tenderness that could make her want to weep, and he would lay the mask gently on his own nightstand, a sacred relic entrusted to his care. Freed, her face would burrow into the hollow of his neck, skin to skin at last, the final frontier crossed. This was the ultimate silence, the ultimate vulnerability. In that moment, without its elegant armor, her truth was absolute and utterly defenseless. And he, in his sleep, would pull her closer, his body a living, breathing fortress around her naked trust. The mask had done its job perfectly. It had guided them past the need for any barrier at all, leading them to this raw, unmediated confluence of two spirits in the dark. It was the beautiful, paradoxical truth of their love, that the careful, conscious act of veiling one part of herself was what allowed every other part to be completely and unconditionally seen. Theirs was a love story written not in grand gestures under a spotlight, but in the quiet, tactile grammar of whispered breaths, beating hearts, and the delicate, silver-threaded key that unlocked a universe of feeling on a pillow every night.